Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome into the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show. I am here after round 3 of whatever the hell this crud is that's been hanging around for about 6-7 weeks now. But we're getting better. Slowly. I got a couple people asking about it in the chat. That's why I'm answering. But we're here. We're live. And it's Friday Eve, meaning for those of you working for the weekend, you are really just about there. And this has kind of become my new theme song, so we're gonna crank this up. This is my anthem to the left.
Don't care anymore. Don't care anymore. Well, I don't care.
We warned you. We've been warning you for years. I've been warning you for 16 years that if you ever awoken Generation X and moved us from our apathy to our nihilism, you were going to regret it. Elon Musk and everything that Doge is doing is everything we have wanted done to this monstrosity now for over 20 years. You're not going to guilt us out of it. You're not going to make us feel bad about it because it's everything that we have said that we wanted. And I just realized my camera's off, so let me fix that. So yeah, now you guys can see me. Some of you are like, please turn that back off. Not happening. Sorry. I know I have a face made for radio. It's why I usually do far off shots, but I'm waiting on a replacement camera or an extra camera so I can start doing wide shots and close in shots when relevant. Because I do a lot of guest appearances now, and I've realized with the way my camera was set up before, nobody could see me. And I'm like, it's kind of pointless to be on camera on somebody else's show when they can't see me at all. But anyway, so we're here. We're live. Speaking of guests, I will have one tomorrow in hour 1. We've been working on getting this one squared away for a while, so we have confirmation. He'll be here for the first half of hour 1, so hope everybody joins us for that. As far as today, we are on confirmation watch. Looks like so far from everything that I can see, Kash Patel is on the way to getting his cloture vote, so they'll actually move out of filibuster. Since this is not a cabinet level appointment, they don't have to do the 30-hour BS. So final vote is supposed to be sometime around 1:30 p.m. Senate time, but as everybody knows, Washington, D.C. is not a Swiss watch, so we will have to keep watching and waiting. But yeah, I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. We've got a press briefing at some point today. We may or may not dip into that for a little bit because we haven't done that for a while. And a bunch of other things because there's never a shortage of news anymore. So, oh yeah, speaking of breaking, ding dong, the Mitch is dead. No, not really. He hasn't died, but he's leaving the Senate finally. When his term expires in 2027, he will not be seeking re-election. I don't know why everybody seems like this is a surprise. I think he forgot that he pretty much already announced this a couple of years ago, after the buffering incidents a few times. I don't think he remembers that he already told us he wasn't seeking re-election, but I'm glad that he reaffirmed it because there for a little bit, I wasn't sure. So there's that. Look, I'm not saying he didn't do his job. I'm not saying he didn't have his time. But the problem is, and this is something that I've been trying to tell everybody for years, once you are in the Beltway for that long, you become that which you have sworn to fight. And we see it happening over and over and over again. And this is one of the reasons why I am glad that even though Joe Biden ran as what was supposed to be basically a transitional president, that Donald Trump is proving to be just that. I mean, look at the VP. The VP's one of the youngest vice presidents we've had in history. That is not by accident. Most of his cabinet is young and understands exactly what we need to be able to move forward into the now getting towards the later half of the 21st century. I mean, we're already a quarter of the way through it, folks. I know it's hard to think about that, but it's the truth. It scares me because right now, if you do the math, we are pretty much nearly the same distance between, all the crap that we used to look at as ancient history to my birthday versus now to my birthday is all the same. But yeah, so I hope everybody has their confirmation popcorn ready. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I really don't. I mean, I try to be civil, especially for the folks that have been there for a while. But McConnell kind of is well past his sell-by date, like a lot of the Congress critters. Have you noticed how many senators are really starting to resemble the California Raisins crew? It's kind of scary when you think about it. It really is. It just proves they've been there way too long. And the thing that I love the most is now that a lot of people's net worth is being released. The same people that are screaming at you about how the billionaires have too much power and too much money are already multimillionaires, which most of us will never be able to be, which isn't cool because it's not that hard in this country to become one, except for the fact that they keep trying to keep their fingers on the scales to make sure we can't get there. That's the scariest part. But anyway, so let's see what else we can get into. So again, breaking news, Mitch McConnell is no more. Not that anybody's really sad about that. I know nobody really is. But I felt like we kind of needed to discuss that for a second. Oh, and in the interest of, if your erection lasts longer than 4 years, you might need to seek medical attention. Trump is about to fire thousands of IRS agents. This actually came out yesterday from PJ Media, Matt Margolis. I can't imagine why anyone would be upset over this news. According to a report from the New York Times, sources say that the Internal Revenue Service will begin laying off roughly 6,000 employees on Thursday as part of the Trump administration's push to downsize the federal workforce. That's about 74,000 too few. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I think they're leaving a lot of them in place because they're going to, I talked about this yesterday. They're going to send the IRS agents that are law enforcement qualified to the border. First of all, I still really don't understand why we have all of these law enforcement arms within each individual agency when we already have law enforcement arms. This just seems weird to me. It's like everybody just decided they wanted their own private police force and everybody was like, yeah, that's cool. No, it's not. It's not cool at all. It's just not. So, hang on. We're doing Gossip Corner because it's Thursday. This may actually start becoming a thing when I have enough stories to fill it. This is again from Matt Margolis. There may be something to the Obama divorce rumors. I still would find this really hard to believe. I think if anything happens, it'll be like the Clintons, and they'll just live separately most of the time unless they need to appear publicly. But I will say this, having gone through a divorce a few years ago, I can tell you right now that Michelle is not happy with Obama, and he's realized he's screwed up. That's why you're seeing all the positive posts everywhere, because that's like the last ditch effort now to go, but I still love you and I want this to work. And trust me, when the woman decides she's done with you, she's done with you. You can't save it. So just pack it up and move on. Because that's the thing. Not to go all Manorama or men's mental health or the other stuff that we do around here, like toxic masculinity and going mental with John Katz. But for the guys that are wondering, you don't get to choose. You may get to throw your hat in the ring, but it's ultimately the woman that decides, one, if she's going to allow you to pursue her, and two, how long you have that ability. So when they've decided they're done, there's no way you can save it. Now, a man, being a man, will do everything he can to provide for the woman that he considers his one and only. He will do the hard work. He will make sure they have a house, a home, all of those things. And because that's what we're ingrained to do. But it's different for women. So if a guy screws up and he realizes he screws up, he's going to do everything he can to try to save it. When a woman decides that she's done, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. So I'm a little confused right now because I'm pretty sure those two have swapped gender roles. So Obama acting like a dude and her acting like a chick really confuses me because I don't think either one is actually the gender they are pretending to be. But, that's just my 2 cents. But anyway, so yeah, apparently there are some rumors that these two may be on the rocks. So the couple's challenges extend beyond personal rumors, with fundraising woes for the Obama Presidential Center suggesting a dip in their broader influence. While no concrete evidence confirms this split, the combination of historical anecdotes, Michelle's recent low profile, and public fascination keeps the divorce speculation alive, contrasting with the polished fairy tale marriage image the Obamas have long projected. Of course, these are just rumors, but according to a new report from RadarOnline.com, rumors of pending divorce are heating up in Hollywood. Dun, dun, dun. Couldn't happen to a nicer couple of grifters. I'm just saying. Oh, so let's see. So J.D. Vance was at CPAC. I don't know if this is the video from this. I guess it is. So hang on. We're going to get this queued up. There is a bit of the video speech that he made from CPAC today, which I sadly was supposed to be at, but because of the flu and because of plumbing repairs and everything else, I did not make the trip because I didn't want to subject everybody else to my.
What is
But hang on. So this isn't very long, so we're going to go ahead and play the whole thing. Hang on.
your message? What is your message to the young men?
You know, I guess my message to young people generally is we're trying to make your life better. And that is the simple thrust of President Trump's policy is we want you to be able to buy a home. We want you to be able to work a good job. We want you to be able to raise your kids, like I said, according to the values that you believe in. And we want you to be able to build a nice life in this country that all of us love. That is what we're trying to do. And, you know, you guys more than anybody, more than me, I'm talking about people under the age of 30 in particular, you guys are going to have to deal with the consequences of good policy or of bad policy for much longer than the rest of us. And I want you guys to think about the future and ask yourself, do you want safe communities? Do you want a prosperous life? Do you want to be able to work a good job? Or do you want that job shipped off to China or somewhere else? We're fighting for you every single day. We want you to help fight for us because we've got to win. Not just the policy battles of the next couple of months. We've got to win the midterm elections in a couple of years. We need you. We recognize that we need you, and we're fighting for you every single day. And I think, you know, you asked me, you know, my message to young men is I think that our culture sends a message to young men that you should suppress every masculine urge. You should try to cast aside your family. You should try to suppress what makes you a young man in the first place. And I think that my message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's... Our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that. And by the way, I actually think, Mercedes, this is the thing that President Trump, this is why the media went after him so hard, is because, you know, when I think about, like, what is the essence of masculinity? You could answer this in so many different ways, but when I think about me and my guy friends, we really like to tell jokes to one another. Like, we like to laugh. If you think of all the movies that were really popular.
Are you saying you're pretty funny?
I try to be.
Okay, President Trump, who's funnier? Who's funnier?
President Trump.
All right, there you go.
Let's be honest.
There you go.
He's got the best sense of humor of any American political figure. But I think this is why young men in particular are so, you know, they're so inspired by President Trump, is because he doesn't allow the media to tell him he can't make a joke or he can't have an original thought. President Trump just says what's on his mind. That's a damn good thing, and it's a good example to set for young men in American culture.
All right, so I was going to interject, but I had a coughing fit, so I'm going to just do it now. See, there's a reason I've been playing more videos the last few days, so I can get back in the swing of things while I'm still half dying. Now, that being said, one of the things that I have taken away from this campaign and now this administration is masculinity isn't toxic anymore. And it's driving the left absolutely insane because that's been one of their pushing points for the longest time. And it's one of the reasons, and you actually, you can thank BZ for this one. You can come up with all sort of euphemisms, but this involves literally the pussification of America. And I think we are starting to try to reverse that. Now, only time will tell how successful we are, but I have noticed, and it's starting to happen more with like the 26 to 35 crowd, because those are the ones that are starting to try to figure out how to get out on their own. Those are the ones that don't want to have 6 roommates for the rest of their lives. Those are the ones that are looking for ways to make money that don't necessarily involve the same ideas that you or I had, because let's face it, the economy is changing. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. If the social media engineers do everything they're talking about doing, there's a good chance there could be a new wave of .com millionaires. Because if all the scales get taken off and everybody has a level playing field, then all you really have to do is put out the best product possible to get noticed. And this ties back to some of BZ's show from that we ran last night that he did on Tuesday. Those guys had some great advice for anybody that's considering trying to get into podcasting. You need to make sure that your product that you're putting out, because that's what it is the best possible product that you can make it. So whether that means that you focus on audio, which we did for a long time, or eventually you start trying to move into video, even if you can't get it perfect right away, remember to keep working on what you're doing. But the reason I bring this up and I'm tying it together the way I am is because this is exactly what the administration is doing. This administration is hitting on so many cylinders right now that nobody can keep up with what they're doing. And it's important because everything that they're doing is slowly moving the needle in so many different ways that has needed to be moved for over 20 years now. And you're seeing that response with independents and with young people, because independents, even now, are still anywhere between 43 to 45% favorable for Donald Trump. He's never had those kind of numbers, not with independents. The Democrats, the entrenched ones, of course, have like a 4% favorability rating, even with all the recent polling. He has taken a couple of points hit in the average, but he's still well above water compared to where it was in his first term. But the thing that matters is he's not stopping. That's like yesterday. And even today, he's already trolling Canada over the hockey game today, which I will admit in his first term, or actually during his first campaign, drove me insane until I realized, and Amish and I talked about this last night, don't take him literally, but do take him seriously, because he will be somebody that goes into a room and says all options are on the table, which immediately puts everybody who's against him on the defensive, and he will say and do whatever he has to say to be able to move the needle. But it doesn't mean that he's actually going to do all of the things that he says he's going to do. We watched this with Mexico. We watched this with Canada. The reason he's still trolling Canada, I believe, as hard as they are, is because Canada is slowly crumbling. The leftist narrative in Canada is falling apart. He is wanting a more staunch ally from Canada, and he wants us to be on better footing. Because if you haven't noticed this yet, all of the allies that everybody's afraid that he's pissing off have had us bent over the table for years. He tried to call it out in his first term, and even his own party stopped him. This time, his own party's not stopping him. So we're starting to get a peek under the hood and realizing, all of this money that Europe is giving Ukraine is secured funding, so they have to give it back. Why did we not get the same deal? I don't care if it's 30 years from now. There should have been some sort of guarantee that we were going to get something back for investing more than anybody else did. You know what? I'm tired of funding Europe's defense so they can afford universal health care, because they wouldn't be able to afford universal health care if not for us providing for their defense. Europe is now a free speech dead zone, meaning that we have soldiers that are stationed overseas in Europe that can possibly be thrown in jail for things that they post online. I'm fine with having allies, but when our allies start doing things that are diametrically opposed to our beliefs, that does not make them our allies anymore. And we need to start facing the fact that we don't really have allies in Europe anymore. They are a necessary party that we have to be involved in because, unfortunately, unlike what Donald Trump seems to think, the ocean between us isn't the buffer that everybody wants it to be, but there is still an ocean between us. It's just not the buffer that he makes it out to be. But at the same time, we can't keep looking at Europe as if they're our staunchest allies, when in reality, they want free speech dead. They've allowed their country to be overrun. We were doing the same thing here. Hell, we were funding through USAID some of the very things that Donald Trump is pointing out are going on in Europe right now. That is insane to me. How the hell can we have one party talking about how the First Amendment matters and then trying to control every aspect of the First Amendment? Then you've got the same party that are doing everything they can to keep anybody from being able to speak, suddenly, talking about the fact that the AP is being excluded from press rooms and everything else because they won't abide by the new name for the Gulf of America. You know what? You guys are the ones that told us dead naming was bad. I'm sorry that we're starting to follow your rules and you don't like them. And this goes back to the opening of the show. I don't care. You made me care enough that now I don't care what happens to you. I only care what happens to the country. You're either going to get on board or you're going to get out of the way because we're here to save it. It is that simple. We're going to do everything we have to do to make sure that our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren still have an America to live in that actually resembles the one that our founding fathers wanted. And right now, it does not. It does not. It hasn't for a long time. Reagan tried to sound the alarm. We didn't wake up enough. Then we had a bunch of establishment Republicans carrying the water and doing all the things that we thought we needed them to do. All the while, unbeknownst to most of us who weren't really paying attention yet, we were being robbed blind. You know, they keep making a joke about doing a live stream from Fort Knox. I'm kind of afraid to do that. I'm not going to lie. I think it may turn out to be the vault that Geraldo did all over again. I don't want an Al Capone's vault scenario with Fort Knox because right now the illusion of us being wealthy is the only thing that's propping this country up. And it is an illusion. We're $36 trillion in debt. We're not wealthy. If we were people, we would already have had, if our country was a person, it would have already had to file bankruptcy like 12 times. We have an illusion of still being wealthy. We are the paper tiger that we accuse everyone else of being. The difference is if we do what we're trying to do right now, we can fix that. Nobody else in the world seems to be worrying about it. We need to be. We need to put ourselves first. I know that terrifies everybody. I know it hurts a bunch of feelings because we have to be the world's police force. We have to be the world's piggy bank. We have to be all of these different things, but we can't anymore. Because if we keep acting the way we're acting right now, we're going to die as a nation. And we were a hell of a lot closer than anybody wants to admit. All right, we're going to have to take a quick break. Going to do a quick check on all the things while we're on break. But we'll be right back. Stay tuned. You are listening to The Rick Robinson Show live on KLONradio.com. We do this thing typically every Tuesday through Thursday. For now, between the hours of noon to 3 Eastern Time. It might be moving soon because I have not been segmenting my day very efficiently and I am falling behind on my other work. So, but that's a couple of weeks away one way or the other. We'll be right back.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez. Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the number one way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
We can go if we want to. Night is young and so am I. And we can dress real neat from our hearts to our feet and surprise them with a victory cry. Say we can act if we want to. If we don't, nobody will. And you can act real rude and totally removed, and I can act like an imbecile. I say we can dance, everything's out of control. We can dance, do it from pole to pole. We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh, it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance. We can dance if we want to. We've got all your life in mind. As long as we abuse it, never gonna lose it. Everything will work out right. I say we can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind. Because your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends.
And welcome back into the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRNradio.com. I want to give a quick shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat so far. I see BZ, we've got Raptor, we've got Denny, got a few others because I can see the numbers going up. So don't be afraid to chime in the chat room. I know I've been doing this for a while, and after doing some terrestrial work, I know for some reason only a handful of people like to participate. We are a nation of wallflowers, apparently. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. I'm still looking to see if I can find the final number on the Patel vote. I have to admit, I didn't do my usual peruse of the news when I was on break because I was getting more coffee because been one of those days. I was working till almost 2 in the morning. I actually fell asleep while the feed was running and woke up an hour late and went, I didn't shut it off yet. But it happens. It happens. There's only so much you can do. Dude, it was so much easier to do these 20-hour days when I was younger. It's hard to do now. I'm just saying. Ooh. All right. So I know not everybody's a huge fan of Fox News. I actually, at least tangentially, know a lot of folks that are involved over there because of working with a few other groups. So this is kind of just music to my ears. This is from our friends at Red State through Rusty Weiss. Harris Faulkner beats The View in ratings. Now she's taunting them because all they do is talk, talk, talk. Those who have had the privilege of watching Harris Faulkner over the years know she's a cut above the cackling faux political analyst at The View, if not several cuts. Grace, poise, intellect, she scores above any member of that panel every day and twice on Sunday. And for that, the Fox News anchor, thanks to her show, The Faulkner Focus, has been rewarded by rightly staking her claim as the queen of late morning news. According to Adweek, Faulkner's signature show registered an average total of 2.2552 million viewers. That's 310,000 in the coveted 25 to 54 marketing demographic, while The View hit the average of 2.580 million. It marks the first time ever that Faulkner has taken down Joy Behar, Sunny Houston, Whoopi Goldberg, and company. And I'm glad she has, and I hope it remains that way. It's funny, because, and look, I get it. We talked about it last night on America Off the Rails. Fox's future is uncertain because Murdoch was trying to do some in runs around his irrevocable trust to make sure that his conservative son got the reins now that he's 93 years old, and a judge said no. So while we can have a network like Fox, even though it has moved markedly towards the left over the years compared to where it started, we should probably at least enjoy the ones that you actually can find common ground with. I get it. A lot of people hate Hannity, especially those that live in California, because he gave you Arnold Schwarzenegger. Some of you have never been able to forgive him. I will admit, I prefer his radio show to his TV show. But I don't even really listen to the radio show as much anymore because it used to be about the people that would call in and give him feedback, and that seems to have stopped somewhere along the way. I suspect it's because his ratings are no longer what they once were. And I've even seen some people that I follow that have been trashing Jesse Waters. I, for one, have been a fan of Waters from the O'Reilly days, so I'm kind of glad to see, as somebody that's been trying to do this for a long time myself, I'm really glad to see people moving up through the ranks that a lot of people were like, yeah, he's not got a future. He's pretty good. I mean, is he a little campy for my taste? Sure, at times, but that seems to be what everybody wants nowadays. I mean, hell, we just listened to an entire clip from CPAC talking about how it's great that conservatives seem to be finding their sense of humor again. Does everybody remember when we were the stick in the muds? Because I do. Nice. Yeah, I have an issue with One American News only because they did an interview with me during the 2020 election cycle, and they cut it all to hell. And then the person that actually put the interview together took my best line that I said in the interview and used it as her own on the way out to commercial. So I have issues with that network, but it's my issue. Nobody else's. I don't begrudge where anybody gets their news. As somebody that does this all the time, I spend a lot of time watching the folks that everybody else makes their heads explode. But I kind of have to because I've been saying this for a long time. If you don't get your news from multiple sources, you're never going to get the entire picture. Because the truth is, there's always going to be a slant, even if it's unintentional. So if you can stomach news from all angles, you can usually find the truth somewhere in the middle because that's actually where it is. But then again, not even some of the people hanging out in the chat right now that do shows don't do as many shows as I do. So I can understand why they're like, you know what? I don't want to watch any of that crap. That's cool. I'm not judging you. I promise. Anyway, so, uh-oh, what happened now? So this is from Victoria Taft from PJ Media. I'm just going to read the headline real quick, then we're going to skim it. Officer, I'd like to report the wreck of another CNN news host. This again was yesterday, so this may have been something I talked about already. For the decades I've been in the news biz, especially on radio and TV, where sound and pictures are paramount, and a reporter must not be afraid to ask these simple, some might say dumb questions. A reporter usually gets the best answers by asking the simplest of questions. Follow-up questions are where the reporter gets crucial information and builds out a news story. And then there's CNN host Brianna Keeler. Uh-oh. I know who they're talking about. Keeler remains afflicted with TDS, an offshoot of the woke mind virus that she highlights for her viewers for hours every week. She doesn't try to hide her biases, but instead sallies forth to get a gotcha moment against every GOP person who bothers to go on CNN. Her motives can't be trusted, of course, because she's not fair. Her worldview is woke, and everything else emanates from there. In her mind, people to the right of center are Nazis. Her questions begin with that assumption. But Trump advisor Stephen Miller may have cracked the code. Indeed, every person who's to the right of center should respond to Keeler's questions in the same manner as Miller. Instead of sputtering, Miller answered the question in the simplest way, assuming that the woke CNN host really needed the answer to her rudimentary question. The net effect was that the viewers became witnesses to a clash that left the CNN host wrecked by the time it was all over. Officer, I'd like to report a hit and run of a news anchor, and it was all because she couldn't get out of her own head to realize that not everyone with an R after their name is a Nazi. Keeler's question was about how the rich African-American meanie Elon Musk really has no right to save America's money and fire people. As our colleagues at Town Hall put it, Stephen Miller had to whip out the crayons to explain that there is this thing called the Constitution. Blink twice if you understand what that means, Brianna, he seemed to say. All right, so I know we played this yesterday, but I'm going to play it again because it was delicious. And I've noticed the really good clips a lot of folks are replaying nowadays. I used to have an aversion to that. I kind of don't now because I do this so much as it is. So hang on, let me get it queued up for you guys because I don't think I'm on the right one. And here we go.
In charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the...
Okay, so before we get too far into this, Mr. Miller, if you happen to be watching this, can you please use an earpiece from now on? As an audio producer, the echo's killing me when she talks, and I know where that's coming from.
Office of the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the President wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
yes,
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago answered a question about transparency at Doge. This is how he spoke about Doge.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
So you hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of Doge?
Again, the president runs the...
Hang on, I'm gonna let him speak, but for just a moment, I want you to look at her face. Just take a look at that face. Hang on, I don't know if it'll let me do it, but we're gonna try. Hang on. Can I make that bigger? Will it work? I don't think it'll work. Nope, it's not gonna work. I tried. All it really does is make everything else bigger around it. But anyway, just look at that face. That is the face of somebody that tried cilantro for the first time and doesn't have the gene that makes it not taste like soap. Because, yeah, that's that face. And for those of you who are wondering, the mutation that lets you enjoy cilantro is a mutation. For everyone else, the normal folks, it does taste like soap. I happen to be one of those people. All right, anyway.
The government, then the president appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House, and then those staff in turn execute the president's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box.
He's the administrator of Doge?
The president appoints staff, the staff that...
Sorry, my mouse is being retarded, so I'm trying to get us back to where we were. But I do have to point out that he just used their own buzzword against them, and she didn't quite know what to think.
Minister his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration. You know about this. They were fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that. They were rescinded. These aren't normal things. These were terminations that were rescinded.
I understand.
Okay, so hang on. I want to fix something for the blonde bimbo because, yes, that is exactly what happened. Terminations were rescinded when they realized they didn't have to cut quite that deeply. We talked about this last night on America Off the Rails, too. When you in the corporate sector, when you shelve something, you shelve it, you cut it, you kill it. And then after you've done the cutting and the killing, you then go back and reassess to see what can be saved from it and what needs to go away from it. So yes, the rescinding of the firings is quite normal in situations like this. It happens all the time in the corporate sector. So a headhunter comes in and starts taking everything apart. And then, like, you know what, after we reviewed everything, now that we've gotten it all stopped and we've stopped the bleeding, we can bring this back, we can bring this back, and we can bring this back. This is a common occurrence everywhere but the U.S. government. This is why, and I showed some of the clips from Doge's website yesterday, showing the millions and millions and millions of dollars of superfluous overlapping agencies that we have within our federal government right now. This is stupid. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the program. We don't need individual law enforcement agencies within all of these different alphabet agencies, because that's the reason some of these alphabet agencies exist in the first place, is as the law enforcement arm. The IRS shouldn't need agents that can serve warrants. If the IRS needs to get a warrant, they should be able to go to the FBI and say, hey, this person is a tax cheat. This is what we've been able to find out so far. We need you to go. We've got the warrant from the judge. We need you guys to go serve it. We don't need IRS agents with guns and the ability to serve warrants. We don't need, at this point, we honestly don't even need the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms unit to begin with, because that should be part of the FBI. The only thing the ATF should be is a fucking convenience store. It's the perfect name for one. You stop for convenience to get your alcohol, your tobacco, and your firearms. The FBI should absorb that. This is one of the reasons why I'm really hoping that the reason that we have the woman who's now most famously known for killing her dog, which I get for people that live in the country, that don't live in the country, that's like a huge deal, is because she's now been put in charge of one of the agencies that Donald Trump intends to euthanize. Because as people get in her way, she's going to be like, you saw what I did to my dog, right? You want to be next? Yes, I'm being hyperbolic, but still. All right, back to the clip.
Understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis and catastrophe for you and for CNN. What the American people see is a government that is finally delivering a promise of accountability under President Trump. You want to have a conversation about transparency? Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea where the $22 billion that the Department of Health and Human Services provided to illegal aliens under Joe Biden is right now? $22 billion with the B. That's enough to provide a free house to every homeless veteran in America. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone. Transparency begins with having an accounting of where every federal dollar is spent. And God bless President Trump for leading this effort.
Exactly. God bless Donald John Trump for doing what he said he was going to do. And it is causing the left to melt down on the daily. Now, while the Senate vote's been going on earlier today, the Democratic Senate Judiciary Committee was protesting in front of the FBI. And the funny thing is, instead of showing any wide crowd shots or anything else, they zoomed in on the members of the cabinet, which means there was probably almost nobody there. It's funny how now that the USSAID cash is dried up, they don't have as many screaming and yelling people anymore. And yes, I added the extra S on accident today on X, and then I realized it fits so much better that I'm just now going to start calling it USSAID because socialism is in the name. Just saying. I mean, that's pretty much what this thing has been being used for. And everybody's like, well, I wonder, does George Soros not answer their calls anymore? Is this another reason why their funding's dried up? I don't think you guys realize how much USSAID was actually funding most of Soros's shenanigans too. He wasn't using his own money. He was using ours. And it was being diverted by the Democrats into their slush fund and their perpetual campaign machine, which is now dying. This is why they're screaming. This is why they're yelling. This is why they're locking themselves in the cloakroom having orgies right now. Wait, I'm sorry. Did I say that? Oopsie. My bad. Anyway. So I don't usually like to talk about things like this, so we're going to save it for the final moments of hour one, just so I can do my due diligence and actually do my job. But this is from our friends at Red State, written by Bonshi. Knew what Palestinians did while handing over murdered Beba's babies sparks outrage and calls to resume the war. While Americans slapped, Palestinians gathered in the streets to celebrate the murder of the Beba's babies, as well as their mother and an elderly man. The four individuals were taken hostage on October 7th, 2023, during the brutal attack led by Hamas that ended some 1,200 lives and placed hundreds more in captivity. Videos of the scene in Gaza painted a grim picture, and we do actually have one of those videos. So instead of me having to read about this, I'm just going to show it. So 1 second, because I know it's part of my job, but this is part of my job I don't much like. Okay, so we may in fact be assholes at times, but I've never seen any of us celebrating in that fashion, save maybe 9/11. And I just don't get it. Now, I will admit, one of the things that I am a little disappointed about, even though I understand why he let off the gas pedal a little bit, is Donald Trump made an ultimatum a couple weeks ago and said if all the hostages weren't released by Saturday, all hell was going to break loose, no more drips and drabs. And then he backed off. I will admit that actually kind of annoys me a little bit. But he has more information than I do, so I'm going to assume that he knows something that I don't, since he has more information than I do. But as somebody who is used to having to put people in situations where you're either going to do this or else, you can't not let the or else happen, or they realize that you weren't serious. So anyway, that's just my final 2 cents on this topic as we get ready to go to top of the hour break. Because yeah, I'm not spending much time on this, because if I do, I'm gonna lose my voice again because I'll be screaming. All right, so one more quick hit on the news cycle, then we're gonna get out of here. This is from Nick Arama, Red State. Shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. I've been writing about the protest against Elon Musk as the Democrats have been whipping up hate against him and President Donald Trump over at the Department of Government Efficiency and the work to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. So my question is, why are they so mad? Now, there's been a shooting at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Somebody shot up the front of the store in Salem at about 5 a.m. local time. Wow. So, yeah, I'm going to put this picture on the screen real quick because or I guess yikes is a better word. Oh, man, I keep forgetting I can't zoom in from inside the article. So hang on. We'll do this. And so there you see the front of the building. And then apparently a torched Tesla. So the funny thing is, until 5 seconds ago, Elon was a darling of the left. Funny thing is, remember, they're the ones that want electric vehicles and everything else. And he's actually the most successful creator of electric vehicles in America. But now that he's successful and he's realized that the Democratic policies make that almost impossible, they don't like him anymore. Anyway, my name's Rick Robinson. This is my show, Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming up on the other side of the break. And Hour 3 still after that. And I know some of you were crying about that. It's all right. Go masturbate. You'll feel better. We'll be right back. Yes, I'm salty today. I don't care. Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding. Because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome back into the program. Hour 2 is underway. The reason we're opening up with Sharp Dressed Man is we're about to hang out with Her Hotness for a while, otherwise known as Carolyn Levitt. She's giving a press briefing, so let's join this in progress and see what kind of goodies we can walk away with. I'm still going to be here hanging out and make comment when necessary.
Hitters in here with me today. Today marks 1 month of President Trump's return to the Oval Office, and there is no denying this administration is off to a historic start. The president has already signed 73 executive orders. That is more than double the number signed by Joe Biden and more than quadruple the number signed by Barack Obama over the same
If Congress
period.
would codify them,
These
it would be
executive
great.
orders have ended burdensome regulations, sealed the border, unleashed our domestic energy sector, eliminated divisive DEI from our federal government, stopped the weaponization of government, cut waste, fraud, and abuse, reinstituted America First trade and foreign policies, and ultimately restored common sense. The president also signed the Laken Riley Act into law, which ensures ICE will detain illegal aliens arrested or charged with theft or violence. As of today, the Senate has already confirmed 18 cabinet-level nominees, which is more than at this point under the Obama administration in 2009, and more than double the pace of the Biden administration in 2021. And today, we expect Kash Patel to be confirmed as the next director of the FBI. We are proud to announce that the president will host his first official cabinet meeting here at the White House next Wednesday, February 26th. In just 4 weeks, President Trump has already hosted the leaders of Israel, Japan, Jordan, and India. And next Monday, the president will host France's President Emmanuel Macron. And on Thursday, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit the White House as well. As you all know, over the past month, the president has taken questions from the press, all of you, nearly every single day, sometimes on multiple different occasions in the same day, on any topic any of you wish to talk about. President Trump set the tone on this approach immediately when he took more than 12 times the questions in his first few hours in office as Joe Biden did in his entire first week. Yesterday, we hosted a local media row here at the White House with television and radio stations from across the country that reached up to 60 million viewers and listeners. In our ongoing pursuit of transparency on this one-month celebration, I am thrilled to bring three of my colleagues and our policy experts here at the White House to further recap this incredible first month of accomplishments in greater detail. We have Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller, the Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, and our National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. I will hand it over to them. They will deliver brief remarks on the accomplishments of this administration in the first month, and then we will open it up to Q&A. When we open up the Q&A portion, I do ask, for the sake of efficiency in this room, that you direct your question to the principal you seek an answer from, and I will call on you in this room. But first, I will let them roll through their remarks, and first up, I'll turn it over to Stephen Miller.
Thank you. It's great to be back. And I want to just thank you all for joining today, our one-month celebration of the most historic opening to a presidency in American history. No president comes close to what Donald Trump has achieved over just the last 30 days. He has packed 8 years of transformative action, restoring this nation, restoring our laws, restoring fairness, restoring economic opportunity, restoring national security in just 1 month. No one in this country has ever seen anything like it. And when you look at the consequentiality and the significance and the transformative nature of the actions he's taking, it truly defies description. For example, in just one area, this nation has been plagued and crippled by illegal discrimination, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. It's strangled our economy, it has undermined public safety, it has made every aspect of life more difficult, more painful, and less safe. He has ended all DEI across the federal government. He has terminated all federal workers involved in promulgating these unlawful policies. He has ended diversity, equity, and inclusion in all federal contracting. He has restored merit as the cornerstone of all federal policy, restored the full, fair, and impartial enforcement of our federal civil rights laws for the first time in generations. And he has cracked down on individuals across this government and nonprofits who have engaged in illegal racial discrimination against the American people. This includes making clear to every educational institution in this country that ending diversity, equity, and inclusion, ending unlawful race discrimination, is a precondition of receiving federal funds. He has also saved women's sports by ending the participation of men in women's sports. He has ended radical gender ideology across the entire federal government, and he's pressured the private sector to also end and combat radical gender ideology. He's reestablished the scientific and biological truth that there are only two sexes in this country, male and female, that those are biologically based determinations. They are not based and can never be based on gender identity. That includes rooting out of the Department of Defense all DEI policies, all critical race theory, all gender madness, and once again having a military that is focused solely and exclusively on readiness, preparedness, and lethality. As I'm sure Kevin will talk about more, of course, he has undertaken a historic cost-cutting effort across the federal government, launching the first ever Department of Government Efficiency, uncovering corruption on a scale that we never thought imaginable, terminating every single federal worker that we have found to be engaged in the corruption and theft and the waste of taxpayer dollars, and already saving $50 billion in a single year, which over a 10-year period would be $500 billion. Just think about how vast and enormous that sum is. Of course, as you all know, he has renamed the Gulf of Mexico to its correct and proper name, the Gulf of America. He has renamed Mount Denali into Mount McKinley, part of a historic effort to restore patriotism and national pride all across this land. He has ended the weaponization of the federal government, restored the Department of Justice to its true mission of combating threats to this nation and keeping the American people safe. He has ended all federal censorship of free speech. This has been one of the greatest crises that has plagued this nation. Years and years and years of the federal government violating the First Amendment to take away Americans' right of free speech. President Trump has ended that, and he has demanded that all federal workers, all law enforcement, cease any effort
to intimidate the rights of Americans or to police their speech. He has also restored the death penalty at the Department of Justice, including for illegal aliens who commit murder, including for those who murder cops, and including for all of those who threaten Americans with heinous acts of violence. The death penalty is back. Law and order is back. The streets are being made safe once again. On the public health front, he has launched the nation's first ever commission, the MAHA Commission, Make America Healthy Again, following the historic confirmation of RFK Jr., to finally uncover the true root causes of the public health crisis in this country, the childhood disease epidemic in this country, the spiraling rates of pediatric cancer, and devastating childhood sickness. He has finally created a situation where the federal health agencies in this country will be focused on preventing disease, on keeping children from getting sick in the first place, not sending them to a lifetime in and out of hospitals, suffering needlessly, when we can find ways to prevent this epidemic of illness. Then, of course, on Homeland Security. Today, it is officially the law of the land, at the conclusion of the congressional notification process, that 6 Mexican cartels and 2 transnational gangs, Tren de Aragua, or TDA, and MS-13, so 8 organizations in total, are now formally designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which means that every single member of those organizations who operates on U.S. soil is now, as a legal matter, a terrorist, and they will be treated as terrorists. This is a sea change in U.S. policy, and this means the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security, along with the rest of U.S. law enforcement and the Department of Defense, are now operating in a legal reality where these cartels are recognized as terrorists. And there will be a whole of government effort to remove these terrorists from our soil and to degrade their ability to threaten or undermine any American security or sovereignty interests. Border crossings, since the day he took office, are down 95%. I think it's almost impossible to even describe the scale and scope of that achievement. President Trump, within days of taking office, cut border crossings 95%. And those few who have dared to cross are being either prosecuted or deported. They're either facing significant jail time for trafficking, smuggling, harboring, aiding, impeding, or they're being immediately removed from our soil. Either way, at the end of the process, they are going home. He's re-implemented Remain in Mexico, and he has obtained historic cooperation from foreign countries all around the world in accepting their deportees back. And he has used the United States military to fully seal the southern border with a historic deployment of both active duty and National Guard troops, resumed the building of infrastructure, he has opened up Guantanamo Bay, and he's using military aircraft to carry out deportations all across this country. And ICE is joining with ATF, DEA, and FBI to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. The criminals are going home. The border is sealed shut. America is safe, sovereign, proud, and free. We are a nation that everyone in the world understands all across this planet. You do not come here illegally. You will not get in. You will go to jail. You will go home. You will not succeed. This is the biggest and most successful change in any area of law enforcement that this nation has ever seen, and he did it in under 1 month. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Stephen. One of the things that President Trump cares most about is job creation, and it was about 7 years ago I had the honor of joining you in this room for the first time, and it looks like we've created a lot more jobs.
He
in the
hired
last
Louis
month.
Stromberg.
Look at how many people are here. My estimate is about 180, but
Some
I
of
didn't
you were
count.
too young to get that
So thank you.
reference, and
It's
it
really an
makes me
honor to
sad.
be back here. I think that I just want to go over a few things and then hand it off to Mike. The first thing is that the president has told us to prioritize fighting inflation. And he had to do that because, as you know, President Biden let inflation get completely out of control. And he did it with policies that made no sense. They made no sense. A lot of times people say to us, our friends the journalists, why are you doing that? But I like to think, why did they do that? Why did they spend so much money? And then why did the Fed print so much money so that we had inflation as high as we've ever seen since Jimmy Carter? So why did they do that? So we're addressing inflation we didn't have to address it in the first term because it was always in the ones, almost always. But we're going to get it back there. And how are we doing it? Well, we're doing it with a plan that President Trump and I and others have talked about in the Oval that involves like every level of fighting inflation. First, the macroeconomic level. We're cutting spending. We're cutting spending in negotiations with people on the Hill. We're cutting spending with the advice of our IT consultant, Elon Musk. And then we're also looking into supply side things, like restoring Trump's tax cuts, maybe even expensing new factories so that there's an explosion of supply. If you have an explosion of supply and a reduction in government demand, then inflation goes way down. And then one of the things that you want to say is, well, when are you going to see it? Well, the first thing that you'll see when the markets believe that we're going to get inflation under control is that the 10-year Treasury rate goes down, because that's how they think about future expected inflation. And so we're still going to see some memory of Biden's inflation. It's not going to go away in a month. But the 10-year Treasury before the last consumer price index had dropped about 40 basis points. 40 basis points because markets were optimistic about our ability to fight inflation. 40 basis points is kind of not a fun thing to say. Economists talk that way. I apologize. But the way to think about it is, for a typical mortgage, if that affects the mortgage rate, then it's going to save a typical family buying a house about $1,000 a year. And that's just in our first month. Okay. The second thing we've done is we've had a lot of trade talks. In fact, I was just meeting a minister from Mexico with Howard Lutnick just a couple of hours ago. And we're talking about reciprocal trade, and we're also talking about the fentanyl crisis. And so reciprocal trade is about our government treating other governments the way they treat us. We want trade to be fair. It turns out that Americans have been disadvantaged by foreign governments over and over, and President Trump wants it to stop. And the fact that struck me as most noticeable when I started to look at what President Trump was asking us to do is that last year we have data, U.S. companies paid $370 billion in taxes to foreign governments. $370 billion. Last year, foreign multinationals paid us $57 billion in taxes. We have 1/4 of world GDP. They have 3/4 of world GDP, and we're paying 370, they're paying 57. This is not reciprocal. We're going to try, or we're going to, fix it. The other thing that we've done is we've had an all-of-the-above energy approach that's led by Doug Burgum and Chris and a really large team, EPA. And we've already made so many actions that are going to affect the price of energy and lower inflation. We've opened up 625 million acres to energy exploration. We've cut 50 years of red tape that makes it so you can't have permits. And we've even made it so that when you go home, if you get a new one, then you can take a shower or flush a toilet or read under a light bulb. We're doing that too. So finally, let's just think about like the facts that we can see right now that we think are awesome. So guess what? Small business optimism has gone up by the most ever since President Trump came in. ISM, which is the measure of what's going on in manufacturing, it's expanding again for the first time in years. CEO confidence is the highest it's been in years. And the reason people are thinking this is that our policies give people cause for optimism. And then I want to reiterate what Stephen Miller said, because it's so important, and it's so important for financial markets to start to digest this, that if, say, the Treasury Secretary or any cabinet secretary with Elon Musk is able to find some savings, say $100 billion, well, in CBO land, that's actually like about 10 times that, or maybe 12 times that, over a 10-year window. And so when you're thinking about the negotiations right now over reconciliation and thinking about, well, 4 trillion, 5 trillion, well, those numbers in terms of the savings are going to end up being small because of all the waste that we're finding. And so we're incredibly optimistic about the future of inflation and the future of our economy, and we're optimistic because we're making so much progress so far, and we already see it in market prices. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mike.
All right. Thanks, Gil. Well, good afternoon. What a month, and what a sea change in our foreign policy. In addition to what we're doing on the border and restoring American sovereignty, in addition to what we're doing in our economy and the job creation and the inflation reduction, we are bringing the world back to where it was at the end of President Trump's first term, which is a world of peace, prosperity, and looking forward and getting us out of the chaos that we've just seen over the last 4 years. So over the last month, just to name a few, I had the honor of sitting in the Oval Office as President Trump spoke with President Putin, and then immediately spoke with President Zelensky, and both of them said only President Trump could bring both sides to the table, and only President Trump could stop the horrific fighting that has been going on now for the better part of 4 years, and that only President Trump could drive the world back to peace. Both of those leaders said that in back-to-back calls. And of course, we just had our historic talks mediated by our good friends and partners, Saudi Arabia. We give great thanks to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for hosting, and sat down for the first time in years with the Russians and talked about a path forward with peace. On top of that, and one of the things that led to that was the tremendous confidence building measure that we had with the release of Mark Fogel. I'll remind everyone, the last time that we had an American released from the Russians, either we gave up a deadly spy, pressured our allies to give up a lethal killer, or we released, under the Biden administration, the world's most notorious arms dealer, Victor Bout, who, by the way, had one of his main clients for arms, the cartels in Mexico and Central America. We gave up none of that. This was released as a confidence-building measure, working with our great Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, and our Secretary of State as a first step towards opening these talks and then moving forward towards peace. On top of that, we've secured, just in a month, the return of 12 American hostages from Russia, from Bulgaria, from Venezuela, the Taliban, and Hamas. Excuse me, that's from Belarus, not Bulgaria. We also had, for the first time in quite some time, we took out a senior leader of ISIS, an international financier and recruiter that the military had been trying to take out for quite some time, and wasn't able to do so, frankly, because of a bureaucratic approval process. President Trump said, take him out, and that ISIS financier and leader is no longer on this earth. We've also taken action to eliminate other terrorist organizations in the Middle East. We drove, before the president was even in office, he started talking consequences for people that would hold Americans. Heretofore, there's been nothing but upside. You take an American, you get some better deal. You take another one, maybe you get a better deal. No more. There's now nothing but downside for taking Americans illegally, either as hostages or illegal detainees. And when President Trump sent a very clear message across the Middle East, but particularly to Hamas, that there would be all hell to pay, we suddenly saw a breakthrough. And now we just saw the release of yet another group of hostages. There have been dozens now, including 2 Americans that we've seen once again reunited with their families. As part of the talks with King Abdullah, he offered, and I think the entire world is graciously accepted, to take 2,000 sick children, cancer patients, and others out of Gaza as a humanitarian gesture. 2,000 Gazans will come out of that hellhole that it is, that wasteland that Gaza is right now, with unexploded ordnance, with debris everywhere, with no sewage, with no water. And President Trump has put forward a plan to deal with the practical reality that is 1.8 million Gazans now truly suffering. And then, just to bring it back to our own hemisphere, we've seen literally in the last month, after years of national security experts, the generals in charge, and others testifying and ringing the alarm bells about the Chinese Communist Party's presence in our own hemisphere, particularly in the Panama Canal. We're seeing the leadership of Panama step away from the Belt and Road program, move away from China and back towards the United States, and even enter into talks and other negotiations about addressing the ports on either side canal. And then finally, last but not least, we've had 4 world leaders in the White House, in the Oval Office. We've had the Prime Minister of Japan, the Prime Minister of India, the King of Jordan, and of course the Prime Minister of Israel just in the last 4 weeks. And next week we'll have the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and we'll have the President of France, Macron. So President Trump is on what we call Trump warp speed. We are all honored to be really serving under his leadership and his vision. And truly, you know, when we all say, and the president himself says, he is a president of peace. He is a president focused on restoring stability. I think the entire world saw what the world will look like without strong American leadership in the last 4 years. And it's truly been an honor to get us back to where we were and back on track under President Trump's leadership.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure you're very eager to ask questions of these very smart people working very
All
hard
right, so
on
we'll
behalf
hang
of
out
the
for some of the
president.
Q&A, probably not all of it.
We do have somebody in our new media seat
'cause
today. We have John Stoll,
they annoy
who
me,
is the
but
head of news
we'll
at
stay
X.
for a minute.
As you all know, you're all on X. It's home to hundreds of millions of users, a large contingent of independent journalists and news organizations across geographies and political spectrums. And at the same time, X remains the go-to platform for many legacy news outlets. And I know, as I mentioned, many of the reporters in this room use X to attract eyeballs to your work. Prior to joining X, John spent 2 decades in journalism, including several years as an editor at the Wall Street Journal. We are excited to have him in the briefing room today. John, we'll let you kick it off. And as I said at the top, please direct your question to the individual up here who you'd like an answer from. John, why don't you begin?
All right, thank you very much. I am sitting in for a thriving ecosystem of journalists, independent and emerging news organizations who do depend on X for publicity, for a business model. And so I look forward to seeing many of them in this seat in months and years to come. I also thank you, Caroline, for opening this seat up.
I want to be there so bad.
It really is a testament
Just
not only
once,
to,
man, just once.
your open-mindedness, but
I've
also to
requested it.
innovation.
I haven't heard
that you'd
anything
actually
yet.
think about, you know, folks that are not traditionally credentialed to be in this room, and not only have a question, but also to witness. You know, this is a very important intersection of power and the free press. And so just the ability to witness this and be part of it, it brings everybody's game up. So thank you for that. I think this is for Mike Waltz. My question is about Ukraine.
Sure.
For about more than 10 years, I've been fascinated, like many, with what's going on. Was in Northern Europe, working out of the Baltics when Crimea was annexed, and was a lot of this came on Twitter. The platform used to be known as Twitter. Was a lot of European leaders would talk about their disappointment and solidarity with Ukraine, but when it came to actually doing something, it felt like they were passing a hot potato and sent it over the Atlantic. I wonder how much of what we're seeing right now out of the administration and President Trump is a call to Europe and the European leaders and the allies that we've traditionally had to pick up that hot potato and start doing something a little bit more concrete to win and preserve the peace in Ukraine. The second question I have is, it's related, is there's been a lot of speculation that President Trump and the administration might be manipulated by Vladimir Putin. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about the administration's posture and your confidence in the competence of this administration to go toe-to-toe with Vladimir Putin.
Well, if there's I'll take the second question first. If there's anybody in this world that can go toe-to-toe with Putin, that could go toe-to-toe with Xi, that could go toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un, and we could keep going down the list, it's Donald J. Trump. He is the deal maker in chief. There is no question that he is the commander in chief. And I, for one, and I think all Americans and around the world should have no doubt about his ability to not only handle Putin, but to handle the complexity of driving this war to an end. And then on your first piece on Europe, I'll take you back to 2014. You're right, there was a lot of hand-wringing in Europe and not a lot of action. There's also a lot of hand-wringing here in Washington under the Obama administration and not a lot of action. They literally threw blankets at the problem. And so I'll remind everyone that Putin had some type of conflict, invasion, or issue with their neighbor under President Bush with Georgia, under President Obama with Ukraine 2014, not under President Trump 45, and again with President Biden in 2022. The war should have been deterred. The war should have never happened, and I have no doubt it would not have happened under President Trump and will stop under President Trump again. But I just want to push back on this notion of our European allies not being consulted as we've entered into this process. I already mentioned the immediate phone call President Trump made to President Zelensky. He has talked to President Macron of France repeatedly last week. President Macron convened European leaders and then is coming here on Monday. Prime Minister Starmer is coming next Thursday. I've talked to every one of my national security advisor counterparts across the spectrum in Europe. I've talked to Secretary General Rutte, the leader of NATO, the Secretary General of NATO. We have repeatedly, oh, by the way, we had half our cabinet, 7 cabinet officials, including the vice president, at the Munich Security Conference, all engaging, all listening, and all making sure our allies are heard. However, we've also made it clear for years, decades even, that it is unacceptable that the United States and the United States taxpayer continues to bear the burden, not only of the cost of the war in Ukraine, but of the defense of Europe. We fully support our NATO allies. We fully support the Article 5 commitment, but it's time for our European allies to step up. And one of the things that Secretary General Rutte said on our call was, this last couple of weeks have been a real wake-up call. And I asked him, what have you been missing the last couple of years? The fact that we are going to enter into a NATO summit this June with a third of our NATO allies still not meeting the 2% minimum, a commitment they made a decade ago, literally a decade ago, with a war on their doorstep, the largest war that they're all extremely concerned about, but yet it's, well, somebody else needs to pay. We've got other domestic priorities. It's unacceptable. President Trump's made that clear. And the minimum needs to be met. We need to be at 100% in this June at the NATO summit. And then let's talk about exceeding it, which is what President Trump has been talking about with 5% of GDP. Europe needs to step up for their own defense as a partner, and we can be friends and allies and have those tough conversations.
Great. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. I have a Ukraine one and a Doge one. Who can talk Doge?
Stephen.
I could
do Doge then. All of us Doge then.
Well, so Stephen, we're hearing about these Doge dividend checks that would be 20%
Okay, so
back
after
to
this, we're
taxpayers,
probably gonna cut away.
20% paid down to debt.
Gotta give Goosey the
60%
mic,
is left. Who gets that?
Well, the way that it works is when you achieve savings, you can either return it to taxpayers, you can return it to our debtors, or it can be cycled into next year's budget, and then it just lowers the overall baseline for next year. So in other words, you can just transfer it into the next fiscal window and then lower the overall spending level. And that means that you can achieve a permanent savings that way, and that reduces the deficit.
And when is it that people might see those checks?
Well, this is all going to be worked on through the reconciliation process with Congress that's going underway right now. As you've seen, the Senate's moving a bill, the House is moving a bill. The President has great confidence in both chambers to deliver on his priorities. I would just take this opportunity to note that President Trump has made a historic commitment to the working class of this country to fight for major tax relief and major price relief. And cutting spending, as Doge is doing, and cutting taxes is the key to delivering on both of those promises, and President Trump is resolutely committed to doing both.
Thank you. And on Ukraine, I guess this is for Mike.
Sure.
After the president's post on Truth Social yesterday, need to know, who does he think is more responsible for the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Putin or Zelensky?
Well, look, his goal, Peter, is to bring this war to an end, period. And there has been ongoing fighting on both sides. It is World War I style trench warfare. His frustration with President Zelensky is that you've heard is multifold. One, there needs to be a deep appreciation for what the American people, what the American taxpayer, what President Trump did in his first term, and what we've done since. So some of the rhetoric coming out of Kyiv, frankly, and insults to President Trump were unacceptable, number one. Number two, our own Secretary of Treasury personally made the trip to offer the Ukrainians what can only be described as a historic opportunity. That is for America to co-invest with Ukraine in their minerals, in their resources, to truly grow the pie. So case in point, there's a foundry that processes aluminum in Ukraine. It's been damaged. It's not at its current capacity. If that is restored, it would account for America's entire imports of aluminum for an entire year. That one foundry. There are tremendous resources there. Not only is that long-term security for Ukraine, not only do we help them grow the pie with investments, but we do have an obligation to the American taxpayer in helping them recoup the hundreds of billions that have occurred. So, rather than enter into some constructive conversations about what that deal should be going forward, we got a lot of rhetoric in the media that was incredibly unfortunate. And I could just tell you, Peter, as a veteran, as somebody who's been in combat, this war is horrific. And I think we've lost sight of that, of the literally thousands of people that are dying a day, families that are going without the next generation. And I find it kind of, frankly ridiculous. So many people in Washington that were just demanding, pounding the table for a ceasefire in Gaza are suddenly aghast that the president would demand one and both sides come to the table when it comes to Ukraine, a war that has been arguably far greater in scope and scale and far more dangerous in terms of global escalation to U.S. security.
And I do have one for Caroline. Does President Trump have a bet?
All right, we're going to go ahead and step away. We've been on this too long.
And when there is a big hot
My name's Rick Robinson. We are well past the half-hour break, so we're going to have to take one now. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Rick Robinson Show live right here on KLRMradio.com. And stay tuned. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. I know it's been kind of a heavy news day. I'm not doing nearly as much levity and stuff, but we'll get there. Be right back.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRMradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNRadio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of What in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has. When you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back into the program. Don't try this at home, folks. One thing, if you're going to cover news events, make sure you do understand the use of the fair use doctrine. And if you're going to play music, make sure you have ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. Just saying. It's not BMI. What's that other one? Anyway, you guys know what I mean. Yes, they're expensive, but we have them for reasons because I don't want to get sued. But anyway, so welcome back into the program. We are over halfway through the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRNradio.com. And also, just for the record, if you stream to places like Facebook and stuff now, they have so many music clips included But as long as you make sure they have them in their library, all they really do is say, hey, you have to share ad revenue with these people. So, I mean, there are ways around this stuff now. This is the future. So they're trying to figure out how to make it work for everybody. So we can all be cool and play like the big kids. But yes, CSAC and all the music licensings do get expensive, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So my recommendation for those of you that are trying to run like the big dogs, pick one and pay for that one, and then just stay in that catalog, because there's lots of logging hours and everything else you have to do to stay compliant, and it's a pain in the ass. But anyway, so yeah, getting caught up with the chat based on the stuff that was happening before we went to break. Zelensky is kind of to blame, but Ken, I don't think you're going far enough back. Obama's to blame. Everybody seems to forget that all this actually started way back during the Obama days. Right around the same time that Romney made the comment about Russia being one of our largest geopolitical foes, and Obama joked that the 1980s one of their foreign policy back. Just about a year or so later, Russia rolled into Crimea and they just laid down and took it. So yeah, this has been something that's been going on for a while, and that's why everybody talks about the fact that it would be nearly impossible with the way things stand right now for Ukraine to go back to pre-2014 borders. It would be impossible. I'm not saying that it can't be possible someday, but it would be impossible today. And the thing about it is, they are using our money, our treasure, to fight this war with Russia that never should have been started in the first place, because NATO was fucking retarded. I'm going to say this again. For anybody who's screaming and yelling about how we should be standing lockstep with Ukraine, I'm going to say, because again, remember, the Warsaw Pact doesn't exist anymore, regardless of what the Democrats tell you about all of a sudden Donald Trump is trying to withdraw us from NATO and put us into the Warsaw Pact. The Warsaw Pact isn't a thing anymore. But if it were a thing, let's run the scenario a little bit differently. What if all of a sudden Mexico got tired of our shit and then reached out to the Warsaw Pact and said, hey, we want to be part of this treaty with you guys? What do you think we would do? What do you think we would do? Russia doesn't trust NATO. Hell, we shouldn't trust NATO. We just got it shoved down our throats sideways in this briefing that we covered for a little bit, that 10 years later, still a third of NATO isn't covering their fucking bill. Why are we? This is something that's been brought up in the chat today, and something that I've been bringing up for a long time. We are the reason the rest of the world has universal health care. If not for us, it wouldn't exist, because if we're not funding their defense, we're funding their medical shit through USAID, or as I call it now, USSAID, because you might as well add the socialism in, because it fits. It was a happy accident, but it was an accident nonetheless, and now it's become a permanent thing. Kind of like her hotness. I'll probably come up with a better name for a nickname for Carolyn Levitt soon, but right now, compared to what we've been looking at for the last 3 years, her hotness is pretty good. I did find it funny that the Treasury guy that got up and talked was basically Louis Skolnick from Revenge of the Nerds. As soon as he started talking, that was the first thing I thought of. Yeah, you're right, BZ. That's one of the things that I don't think I've realized exactly how bad it was until we got a peek under the hood of USAID, because we are literally funding the world. We remember when we did the "We Are the World" song back in the 80s because of, African famine and shit. Apparently, we took that way too literally, because we are the world's piggy bank, and that needs to change, because we're broke. We've been broke for a long time. We can't keep pretending that we're not. We are the epitome of the guy who used to be a billionaire who's broke and is still pretending that he's a billionaire because he still has a credit line. Eventually, that is going to blow up in our faces, and it's already started. Let's not forget that under the previous administration, our credit rating has gone down twice. Not once, but twice. That's why, and it didn't show up in the chat, but earlier when the Treasury guy was talking about getting inflation back down around 1%, I'm like, whoa there, Skolnick. No. Some of us want to see controlled deflation for a while, because the problem, and I keep trying to make people understand this, for a while, inflation was rising about like this. Now it's rising about like this, but the problem is it's still going up. So even if you get it down to 1%, it's still going up, which means prices are going to continue to rise from where they were before. And the one thing that I really want the economic nerds to do in the White House is stop cooking the fucking books. Let people see the actual inflation rate, because I guarantee you, if they stop taking everything out that they use to prop everything up to make it seem like it's better than it is, and trust me, I understand why they do what they do, but for now, it really needs to stop so we can actually get a look under the hood. Kind of like when they pulled back the curtain at USAID and all of us were like, what the fuck? Yeah, that needs to happen because we don't know how to fix it if we don't know what's broken. And Congress has been hiding shit from us. This is the part that I don't think anybody's caught up yet. Congress has been hiding shit from us on both sides for forever. Because at some point they decided they don't work for us anymore. And the problem is we allowed them to perpetuate that for way too long. The other problem is we actually made it a reality in 1913 when the Republicans got the bright idea of, well, nobody's really going to let them get into their wallets, even if it is only the 2% income for the top 1% earners. And then they bet and they lost. And since then, we have become the batteries that fund the very machine that we are trying to kill. That is a huge problem because, again, before 1913, there were two ways we raised money: tariffs and treasury bonds. If they couldn't raise the money through tariffs to get their pet projects done, they came to the American people after Congress said, hey, we're going to try to do this thing, and said, hey, we need your help to do this thing. And then we got to vote with our wallets to say whether we were going to do this thing or not. And we need to get back to that. I understand that in today's economy and everything else, people don't think it would work. I think it will. I think it will work quite nicely, especially if we keep doing things like reciprocal tariffs. That's the one word that's been missing from this for a very long time. It's not just we're going to punish you because you have unfair tariffs on us. It's like, hey, since you have like in Canada, they have a 350% tariff on American milk. Fine, then we have a 350% tariff on something reciprocal that we usually get from you that we can also make here, so that you understand the pain that you are causing us. These are the things that need to start being handled and are being handled under this administration, because we finally have somebody who understands we cannot be the world's piggy bank. We cannot be the world's punching bag anymore. And we can't be Team America World Police anymore, no matter how much we want to be. That has to change. All of it has to change, or there won't be an America left to fight for. And the left got us dangerously close to that being a thing. I don't think anybody realizes how close we got to that cliff. Not yet. When I say anybody, I don't mean absolutely everybody, because a handful of us did see it. We started really paying attention during COVID and woke up in ways that, I mean, I was already politically plugged in and had been since 2009, but even I didn't see some of the crazy shit that was going on. And that's one of the things that I love now about all the Democrats. They're like, oh, now you want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to do something about the food? Michelle Obama was trying to do this back during the Obama years. You guys realize that was a generation ago, right? It was pretty fucking close to a generation ago. The average generation length right now is 16 years, so you do the math. 16 years ago was the very beginning of the Obama administration. So you're talking about an actual generation ago. And you're still screaming and yelling instead of, well, I'm glad somebody's finally figured out that they're doing some shady shit to our food, because they have been for a long time. Stacy and I talked about this on Whatever recently. Some of the very same people that made tobacco as addictive as possible when tobacco stopped selling moved into the food industry. There's a reason that all the sweet things that you absolutely love to eat trigger all your pleasure centers and make you want to eat more of them and more of them and more of them. And I'm one of the people that has a problem with that, which is why I typically try not to keep sweets in the house very much. Because when they're here, they're here, and then I want to eat every last bit of them. And everybody, you have a control issue. No, I have an endorphin issue. They are making the cheapest things possible for you to eat addictive, so you want more of them. They make them cheap so that you can afford them, and then they make them addictive so you're buying more and more and more of them. And who is they? The people that produce the stuff. Look, I'm not saying that our country is perfect. If anything, our country's never really been perfect. It's been an experiment from the beginning. But in order for us to understand how this experiment works and or should work, we need to understand what is broken so that we can fix it. The FDA is broken. It has been for a long time. A lot of our agencies are broken. They have been politicized. Nobody wants to talk about it. Anytime you try to bring it up, oh, you just don't like America. No, I love America. I want America to continue. I want to try to figure out why we have such a huge problem with things like ADD and ADHD and all of these other things that are impacting kids. I want to find out why we have such an obesity problem in this country. And I understand part of the reason why we do, because the food that is good for us is too damned expensive for most people to be able to afford. Look at rich people. Most of the rich people don't look like me because they can afford to buy the food that hasn't been processed to death. I'm not a rich person. I live paycheck to paycheck just like the rest of you. So yeah, there are times when I eat things like ramen noodles, even though I know they're killing me because it's all I can afford. There are times when I eat macaroni and cheese from a box because it's all I can afford. We've lost the plot in this country in so many different ways, and it's frustrating because now we have a group of people that have come in, have started to put the pieces together on exactly how broken everything truly is. And you have the entire other side of the aisle fighting them tooth and nail, when in reality, all they're really trying to do is make things better for me, for you, and literally for everybody. But it doesn't matter because they're on the opposite side of the aisle. When we come back, case in point, we've got a clip from Jasmine Crockett that proves exactly how broken the Democrat brain is. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. Hour 2 is in the books. Hour 3 on the way after this break. We'll be right back. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has. When you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home You can be safe. There's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Don't look at me in that tone of voice. Air guitar is the only instrument I can play. I can sing when I don't sound like I'm Froggy from the Little Rascals, but I can't play instruments. Always wanted to. Don't really have the patience to learn, which is weird because I have the patience to learn other things, and I'm self-taught on a lot of things that I do. Instruments have never really been that thing. I even bought myself a guitar a couple years ago thinking I would find time to figure out how to play it because once I put my mind to something, I can normally figure it out. I don't have the time, and I wish I did. But it's because I try. There's so much I do all the time. It drives my friends crazy because I never really have time to do anything. They're like, all you ever do is sit by here doing podcasting and videos and editing and writing, and you never have any fun. And I'm like, well, for me, that is fun. I'm sorry if it's not to you, but it is to me. But yeah. So yeah, BZ, before we went to break, brought up the comment, it's kind of interesting how, we have to live within our means, but the Congress critters don't. Frustrating, isn't it? All right, so there are a bunch of things that are kind of percolating around now, but there is definitely something that I want to get to, if I can find it, because I lost it again. Where did it go? I know I had one. We can start here, and then once I find it, I will work my way back around to the Crockett video because she kind of stepped on something today. So the CNN is kind of having an identity crisis, and I find it interesting. So Harrington basically delivered doom, despair, and agony for the CNN panel that he was part of because he provided proof that Donald Trump has, in fact, reshaped the electorate. And it's a huge swing. It's not. It's no small thing. I mean, the numbers when you look at them don't really seem that big, but we're going to show the clip, and then I'm going to explain to you why it's a much bigger thing than anybody, especially on that side, wants to admit. Where did I stop? Something broke. One moment, please. I don't know what happened. At some point, the screen share went away. All right, we should have it fixed now.
Donald Trump and the Republican Party has changed the electorate. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at party identification, Democrats versus Republicans. You go back to 2017, 5 points more of the electorate was Democrats than Republicans. You go to 2021 when Joe Biden was starting out, look at that. 6 points more of the electorate was Democrats than Republicans. But look at what's happened in February of 2025. Look at this. Republicans, there are more Republicans in the electorate than there are Democrats. Republican +2. So Donald Trump and the Republicans have remade the electorate. They've turned some people over from being Democrats or independents to become Republicans. New folks have entered the electorate who are more Republican leaning. And so when you combine that with the fact that Republicans are really, really behind Donald Trump, all of a sudden you get a winning recipe whereby you break the normal rules of politics and give Donald Trump that positive net approval rating when he had pretty much a consistently negative one in term number one. As I said at the beginning, he's copying Frank Sinatra, doing it my way.
All right, so the important thing with those numbers, and hang on, I'm going to put them back up on the screen. The important thing with those numbers, and I need you to look at this. So from 2017 to 2021, in a 4-year span, there was actually a 1-point increase in 4 years for Democrats. So they went from having a 5-point advantage to a 6-point advantage. 4 years later, which tells you exactly how bad the electorate all knew Joe Biden was. And everybody in the media right now should be kicking themselves right in their own jimmies because they made this mess, because they propped him up. But we can see now why they did, because all of the U.S. aid cash was flowing like milk and honey, and they didn't want it to go away. And they didn't want the government saying, well, you can't print this and you can't print that, because the Stalinists were the foxes in the henhouse while Biden was running the White House, or supposedly running the White House. But the reason this is important is I need you to look at something. From February of 2021 to February of 2025, and this proves exactly how broken everything was, and that everybody could see it. Everybody could see that the emperor had no clothes other than the devout, because we're talking about an 8-point swing the other way. Not only did they have to eat into a 6-point lead, they came out 2 points ahead. That is an 8-point swing in 4 years. That is a 2-point swing every year for 4 years to put us where we were during this most recent election cycle. And if you notice, most of the people that are reporting this swing are the younger demographic, not the 18 to 25 crowd, but more in the 25 to 54 crowd are swinging to voting more R. And the problem is the Democrats are starting to notice this. So now you've got folks like Jasmine Crockett, who said what she said earlier, and I'm frantically looking for that clip because I had it earmarked and now I can't find it. There we go. I knew I had it somewhere. One moment, please. Well, maybe I thought this was the right one. Nope. Well, it's kind of an explanation of it. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can keep finding the clip because it's not here. But this kind of goes into the disparity of everything that they're trying to do. So while I'm looking into this, we can go over this one too, because the Dems are facing their latest bout with reality. Because every dimwit that you see posting on X, all of the paid influencers, all of the above, are screaming and yelling about how there are so many MAGA voters or Trump voters that are now regretting their choices. But that's not true because the poll numbers don't support it. So they have reality smacking them right in the face and they don't know what to do. Tristan Snell, one of the biggest ones besides the human chihuahua Harry Sisson. Trump's approval rating collapses. Only 37% of independents approve of Trump's performance as president. Except that's not true because he's over 40% with independents right now when you do all the cross polling. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. But this is the stuff that I'm talking about. Americans approve while Margaret Brennan at CBS had to eat some more crow. When poll participants were asked if Trump is fulfilling his campaign promises, 70% said yes. Now, the important thing about that number is that is just strictly it's Trump doing what he said he was going to do. So even some of that 70% don't necessarily like the fact that he's doing the things that he said he was going to do. They're just willing to admit that he is, in fact, doing the things that he said he was going to do. And the problem is the numbers just keep getting better. As of right now, Donald Trump has a 12-point swing, even if you look at this at the lowest numbers, than he did during his entire first term, because he is doing everything, or at least trying to do everything, that he said he was going to do. Now, the problem is Congress going to be able to keep up with the pace that he's making? And this has got some people concerned because we've got the rank and file Republicans starting to dig in and making sure their sacred cows get their funding. And everybody's like, no, that's not what we want right now. That's not what we voted for. So why are we doing this thing again? And this goes into so many other different things. And right now we're just kind of doing a quick hit on everything that's been breaking while we were covering the press conference. So this is from Derek Hunter, and this is from Town Hall. Forget defunding. It's time to destroy PBS, NPR, and the left-wing industrial complex. Now, I'm not a huge fan of taking everything and adding industrial complex after it. I'm just going to be honest. But in this instance, I think it does kind of fit. So so we're just going to read through this real quick, kind of skim it. So Ken Burns makes some good movies. I don't call them documentaries anymore because they're riddled with errors, and he doesn't seem to have any interest in correcting the record, just hammering the checks. Ty Cobb was a racist. Everyone in baseball hated is the gist of what was said in baseball, but it wasn't true. As Charles Leeson showed in his brilliant Ty Cobb, A Terrible Beauty, Burns didn't answer Learson about where he got his false information from or whether or not he tried to actually verify any of the claims he made in his film. Being Ken Burns means never having to say you're sorry. This indifference toward truth, not to mention reality, is just one reason the entire PBS NPR infrastructure is not just unnecessary, but needs to be destroyed. I'm just going to say this in plainer terms. Lift off, nuke it from orbit, salt the earth. And this is coming from I have somebody that's become a mentor of mine that actually works for the local PBS group here. And if he's listening, I love you, man, but you're working for the devil. I still love you though. Just saying. So so we're going to keep going here, but it's not just that these publicly funded outlets are biased, it's that they are rotten to their core. They are the playthings for billionaires. For all the whining about Elon Musk, leftists they embrace the hell out of billionaires when no one is looking or when they think you're not looking. Just look at both Spooky Dude and Spawn of Spooky Dude because they've been their new favorite toys. Although Spooky Dude and Spawn of Spooky Dude are pissed off because all of their shenanigans were being funded by USAID money that no longer exists. So they're a little mad. I know, USSAID. I get it. We have to spell it out, otherwise it sounds more friendly than it is. So Lauren Powell Jobs, who made her fortune by marrying Apple co-founder Steve Jobs and outliving him, bought The Atlantic a few years ago to be her progressive plaything. It's amazing how leftists who inherit or fall into wealth have a compulsion to do something in politics. I suspect in an attempt to fool the world into thinking they've actually done something with their lives too. Jobs recently bought the PBS show Washington Week, now called Washington Week with The Atlantic, turning what was already leftist propaganda into branded leftist propaganda. If this accidental billionaire can afford to buy a show on the public channel, she can afford to pay to put it on a privately owned channel. Taxpayers don't need to be involved in that operation at all. Newsbusters reports Lauren, one of Kamala Harris' biggest bankrollers and confidants, isn't alone. David Rubenstein has bought himself several chat shows on PBS. As long as you're a progressive billionaire, no one in public broadcasting objects, and nobody inside their bubble cares about conservative taxpayers if and when they object to funding the ideological boondoggles. So yes, this is pretty much a decent, solid reason why PBS and NPR need to be nuked from orbit and have the earth salted where they once stood. And I say that again, having people that I know that work in those organizations. Hell, I was almost one of them when I worked for the University of Oklahoma. They were trying to get me to go to work for the college station. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think you guys would like me very much. And then I sent them my proof of concept, and they're like, yeah, never mind. yeah. Anyway. All right. So, again, in the news roundup for the final hour, the Associated Press's latest statement about Trump gave the whole game away. This is again from Town Hall, Matt Vespa. It must be lonely for Matt Taibbi. No, I'm not making light of his situation. He's doing well covering the stories news outlets avoid out of political bias, and he's a true blue Democrat. The former contributing editor for Rolling Stone isn't a Trump supporter, nor can he be part of a Democratic Party that stifles speech and runs with some of the most obtuse and liberal policy positions in recent memory, namely the attacks on freedom of speech. Taibbi is one of the few liberal reporters
who was a Russian collusion skeptic and has torched his side for losing the plot on core democratic values. He's on an island alone, but thriving, especially now that Biden is out of office and the IRS isn't targeting him anymore. See, I missed this. I was on. So, yeah, remember weaponization, how bad it is? This is what happens when the left doesn't like you anymore. Taibbi got audited not long after he testified before Congress about the Twitter files and the system on thought control and censorship the social media giant and the FBI had created before Elon Musk bought it. It's why he's likely equally amused by the Associated Press's war with the Trump White House, which the latter couldn't care less about. The legacy media's influence is dying. There's a reason I call them the zombie media now. The AP style guide is left-wing trash. Unfortunately, for one outlet I write with, I have to use it. And no one said anything about other systems of censorship before AP got hilariously barred from the Oval Office and Air Force One. Taibbi noted how the AP guide slowly became infected with the woke virus and how it's not uncommon for journos to be chilled out of the White House. Trump isn't the first or last president to freeze out reporters he didn't like. AP should recognize the changing times because they've already lost the PR war. This is a statement from via Racket News from the Associated Press. This is about the government telling the public and press what words to use and retaliating if they do not follow government orders. You mean kind of like use of pronouns? You guys were okay when that was being done. The White House has restricted AP's coverage of presidential events because of how we refer to a location. You mean you're dead naming? Let's call it what it is. You guys made these rules, not us. The Associated Press has provided critical and independent coverage of the White House for over 100 years. Sure, they have. Telling the public and the press what words to use. Sure. As anyone who reads Hate Inc. can attest, I've long been critical of once common newspaper practices like plastering mugshots online. These linger, and the acquitted tend not to live them down. In many cases, coverage is just unnecessary. Broke moms busted for shoplifting, pictured and named. But AP's now gigantic style book goes beyond better practices and asks reporters to abandon common sense or speed for constantly shifting political precepts. Hence, no references to both, either, or opposite sex, because not all people fall under the two categories for sex or gender. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that telling journalists what language they should use? These are journalists, not scientists, telling people how many sexes there are. I left strict observance of AP style years ago over the black issue. Not for moral reasons, but for exhaustion. I guarantee that the term will be changed 5 or 6 more times. As an independent, I also don't have to care now. But the combination of AP's none words like severity and increasingly transparent slant made the organization ripe for addressing down enter the Gulf of America fiasco. I don't see what Trump is doing as a moral issue. The AP doesn't have to change its guide, and Trump doesn't have to let them into the Oval Office. Both are trying to influence the other. It's how this dance works. I get some speech advocates are wringing hands over Trump's openly stating of the reason for banning, which does make it a technical violation of viewpoint discrimination. Still, it's hard to summon outrage when previous White Houses have long frozen out or barred reporters without giving reasons. An example being the New York Post during the Biden years. That and the fact that the AP and all the press orgs rushing to its side now haven't said boo about years of state censorship or other actual threats to media, including some involving me. This is, of course, written by Taibbi. But fine, take it to court. Since it does cross a line, the AP will win and go back to cheering or ignoring actual suppression of media, but there'll be a net loser in this PR standoff. Loser. Just saying. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about it is it does cross a line, so they may actually wind up losing out in the long run for the White House, but it still makes a statement and reminds these people that we didn't make these stupid rules. They did. They're the ones dead naming a body of water now because they don't like to change. And let's not forget, if not for Joe Biden trying to be a dick, it would have never had to have been renamed. And honestly, I kind of dig Gulf of America. When it was named the Gulf of Mexico, almost the entire area that is now encompassed by it was owned by Mexico. So it used to make sense. We own most of it now. So why shouldn't we change the name? Is it a huge deal? No, not really. But in the grand scheme of things, it does fall into one of the things that I know people hate when I use this term, and I try not to use it that often, But this does fall into the category of one of those 4D chess moves because with a stroke of a pen, he outdid everything Joe Biden tried to stop about being able to drill in the now Gulf of America. And I say drill, baby, drill everywhere as much as we can, all the time, because it's going to make us safer and make us stronger. And it means that we don't have to rely on all of these other people whose stuff changes all the time. All right, so before we go to break, there is one thing that I want to talk about because this is something that keeps coming up over and over and over again, and it's Congress. Look, I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again. They should have had single item standalone bills ready to go from the moment everybody got sworn in. You want to make Social Security non-taxable? That could have been a 2-page bill. Could have been done in 30 seconds. You want to make tips non-taxable? That could have been a standalone bill. Could have been done and pushed through in 30 seconds and already been signed. This is my problem. And I've been saying this for a while. And this is one of the things that I disagree with wholeheartedly with Donald Trump. One of the reasons the left has been able to run the table for so long, so hard when it comes to funding everything is because they get us to start doing these mammoth, what I call cramnibus bills, or reconciliation processes that become these 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 page behemoths. And they want behemoths. Sorry, my redneck is showing today. I apologize for nothing because I am one. But anyway, it's nuts. We need to get away from these 3, 4, 5,000 page bills. There's no reason in this day and age with electronic access that we should not be able to have Congress putting out 1, 2, and 3 page bills that are less than maybe 1,000, 2,000 words that actually explain everything that each individual bill is trying to do so the American people can read it, they can understand it, and they can say, hey, this is a good idea. We should do this. We need to get to that. Technology has changed enough where the electorate can and should be able to be to remain more informed. Problem is Congress doesn't want us that way because even Congress, especially the Democrats, understand how broken our education system is. The clip that I am frantically looking for is Jasmine Crockett saying just that. When she's asked why Trump is so popular, because the American people are stupid. She doesn't say those exact words, but she does point out how poorly educated most Americans are. Whether she realizes it or not, she's making the very case for why the Department of Education should be slagged. And it should be. The Department of Education should be slagged. Most of these independent, inside the alphabet soup agencies that have their law enforcement arms should be slagged and then combined under FBI. FBI should be reworked from the ground up because the people at the bottom might not be rotten. The people at the top have been pretty much since its inception. In case you guys have forgotten, the FBI was basically our answer to the KGB. Nobody wants to talk about that part because it's not fun and it's not sexy, but it's just the truth of it. All right, we're going to have to take a quick break because my voice is trying to fail. We'll be right back. Hello, friends. Give a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Just in from Digital Beacon U.S. News Desk, Cash Patel has been confirmed, largely along party lines. Final vote 51 in favor. Surprisingly, Turtle Boy voted for. Otherwise, Otherwise, JD Vance would have had to have gotten his ass in there really fast since he's been hanging out at CPAC to break a tie. So Murkowski and Collins were no votes. Not really surprising anyone. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Turtle Boy didn't vote no too, but he didn't. So FBI director has been confirmed. So in the words of Sean from Psych, hey Dims, suck it. I'm sorry. I may be having a little bit too much fun with his administration so far because they just keep putting their thumb in the Democrats' eyes, which we watched happen over and over again with Obama in 2009, and none of our crew had the stones to do anything about it until now. So I might be having a little bit too much fun with this, and I understand at some point the pendulum may swing back the other way, but let's not forget how long it actually took for the pendulum to start swinging back this way. I don't think this one's a false start this time either. There's been a couple of false starts while I've been doing this and even before, but I think people are fed up. I think people have finally figured out that communism at some point won the day, and we have to figure this shit out once and for all. Because we have been the world's piggy bank. We've talked about it off and on throughout this program. We are funding everybody's communist wet dreams with our treasure. And I talked about this earlier, and even Andrew, who's been trolling me via the text line, has said it wouldn't surprise me at all, since we're not on the gold standard or any kind of standard anymore, if they did in fact open up Fort Knox and it was empty. The thing about it is, ladies and gentlemen, and this is stuff that only folks like myself and Glenn Beck have been pointing out now for the last few months, most of everything that you understand is a tangible asset that you technically own is being sold off in portfolios. I guarantee you, if you have an active mortgage, there are at least 4 or 5 different groups that have purchased your mortgage in a portfolio that are listing it as a 100% ownership asset, even though it's divided up between about 5 or 6 different places. So if you are ever fortunate enough to get to the point where you are able to pay off your mortgage, make sure you have a tangible copy of your deed somewhere safe, because at some point you're going to need it. The problem is, since most of the world doesn't use any type of tangible market anymore to tie their money to, the same thing has been happening with precious metals. They have been sold off and resold, which means, if you really want to get technical about it, all of America's gold is now Great Britain's gold, and all of Great Britain's gold is now India's gold, and all of India's gold is now Russia's gold. And on and on and on the shell game goes. This is one of the things that they've been trying not to tell you now for a very long time. And they were hoping that nobody would ever pull back the curtain. We've been telling you now for weeks, USS AID was just the beginning. This is the tip and just the tip. And the rest of it's going to hurt. The rest of it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt a lot. And I apologize in advance. But this is the same thing that doctors tell patients that are riddled with cancer. You have 2 options. You can either live in some sort of comfort through drugging, etc., until you just aren't here anymore, or we can do something to try to fight this. America is dying. America is on life support. She's been dying for a long time. We are just now starting to have the courage to pull back the curtain. Don't lose your mettle, because it's going to hurt for a little bit. It really is. There's no way around it. But if we do this right and we stay the course, we can be the driving force for the world again in the way that we were always meant to be, not their fucking piggy bank and their fucking teddy bear. That's not what we were ever supposed to be. We used to be the beacon on the hill. We're not anymore. We're the bank. And some of this happened by design. When they made the bright idea to start uncoupling everybody from gold standard and everything else, it was because we wanted to be the world's money changers. Anybody remember how that worked out for the money changers in the Bible? I don't think it worked out very well. I'm just saying, it never really does. And the problem with all of this is, at some point, when your money isn't anchored anymore, it automatically becomes worth less, which is where the word worthless comes from. As you print more of it and there's more and more money chasing less and less goods, this is the driving factor for inflation. This is what happened in a lesser degree under the Trump administration. And at that point, he really didn't have a choice, because the entire world was shutting down because everybody was being retarded and everybody was carrying water for China, whether they wanted to admit it or not. And we're just now starting to find that truth out too. It's funny because if not for the technology we have today, this likely would have been something else that hadn't come out until 60, 70 years later. Kind of like, the funny thing is, The declassification of the John F. Kennedy Jr., the John F. Kennedy files, those have kind of went away after there was a Congress critter who pointed out that there is actually credible evidence that there may have been a second shooter. All of a sudden, nobody's talking about it anymore. Wonder why that is. If not for the technology we have access to today, all the things that we're finding out about China and Wuhan and all the things that we knew even way back then, and I know YouTube's looking at this going, how quickly can we pull the lever? How quickly can we pull the lever? I fucking dare you. Because this time I will sue. Because I have evidence on my side this time. I'm done playing your games. I dare you. Send me a notice. Please. Not as small as I once was. I will own you by the time I'm done. Please, just try me. Because the truth is out there. And it's available. And everybody's starting to be able to see it. There are other truths that are just starting to be exposed. And it's going to cause some pain. And I promise you, it's going to hurt for a little while. We're already seeing it because Donald Trump is already doing everything he can to take massive steps in multiple directions to ease the pain of inflation. But the leftists have glammed onto the fact that it's been a month and things have only gotten worse. But things have only gotten worse because of all the traps that the Biden administration laid on the way out the door. And as we've discussed on this show multiple times, he didn't care anymore because it didn't matter if it was her in charge or Trump in charge. It wasn't going to be him in charge anymore. He didn't give a fuck. He didn't care who got hurt on the way out the door. He only cared that he was being spiteful. Or I should say that Lady McBiden was being spiteful because everybody knows that dude can't even, if you plugged him in, he couldn't run a light bulb right now. Let's just be honest. And potatoes can do that. So let's be honest. But yes, there's going to be some pain, but there has to be because we have lost our way. And I mean, like this is going on. I don't usually give you guys a peek behind the VIP, but this is kind of important. This is Guy Benson Town Hall VIP, so I'm not going to go completely through it. But and this is from none other than New York City. A howling, hateful mob of Hamas supporters, is there any other kind, descended upon a predominantly Jewish neighborhood in New York City this week. The community was in mourning over the confirmation that the savages of Hamas had, and that was my editorial, not the writers, in fact, murdered the two red-haired babies they'd stolen from their family on October 7th, 2023. The Hamas mob surely knew how painful a time it is and deliberately showed up to cause trouble because, of course, they're vile people. One of those vile people also allegedly tried to mow some Jews over with his car, but was stopped by NYPD, thankfully. So, again, if you're on the side of these monsters, get the fuck off my feed. I'm not even kidding. If you have ever once in your life looked at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and felt sorry for Palestine, I don't want you fucking listening to me. I don't want you watching me. I don't need your clicks. Not only do I not need them, I don't want them. Because if you're supporting monsters, I don't need you. These are the lines that we, as conservatives, need to start drawing. There need to be lines in the sand where at some point we are unwilling to bend anymore to these assholes. Because that's what they are. They are people that have used the system. They are people that have used our own Western ideologies against us, and they don't even hold them. This is one of the things that I've been trying to explain to people for the longest time. You cannot take the Eastern cultures and the Western cultures and throw them together and expect them to be the same because they are not. These people only value one thing, and it's strength. And it's one of the reasons you're starting to see them stand up and pay attention now that we don't have a mealy mouth motherfucker in the White House. And yes, I'm getting fired up. I know. Usually I try to do this in the beginning, but it's been a slow boil today because I'm trying to save my voice, but at the same time, I'm just like, you know what? I don't care anymore. But I guess one of the brightest spots for me, again, just backtracking a second, is Kash Patel is actually the new director of the FBI. And all I can say about that is I'm waiting for him to look at the Democrats and be like, cash me outside, motherfuckers. Just saying. I know I'm being a little silly, but it's because I'm trying to calm down because my show's almost over and I was going to take about a 2-hour break before I went back to work. And if I get too fired up, I won't want to. So let's see. This is from Kurt Schlichter, and I think it is actually a very solid thing. And if anybody actually is followed by him. Please ask him why he unfollowed me a long time ago, and I haven't been able to figure it out. Anyway, I think it may have had something to do with 2016 because I was not a Trump supporter in 2016. I learned my lesson, though, I promise. One of the glorious parts of the campaign that Trump 2.0 is prosecuting against the deep state is the unprecedented way it exploits the internet and high technology to take on what's essentially a mid-20th century government leviathan. After all, it's come out that the government's flunky retirements are handled on paper in a limestone cavern. One moment, please. It's also come out that the Treasury is still running some of its systems on COBOL. Now, I'm not a computer geek. Well, actually, I am. And I have kissed a girl. So, Schlichter, you're kind of dick sometimes. But I remember COBOL was a thing when I was in college. And when I was in college, a flock of seagulls was a thing. And not for me. I was a little bit later than that. But I do like flock of seagulls. Moreover, the movement is leveraging outside talent like X-Folk, Hero and Heroine, oil-filled rando, and data Republican, who use their knowledge and technology to interrogate and expose the hidden misdeeds of the deep state. This is great stuff. This has to be encouraged. There are not just a few dozen or hundreds or even thousands of these kinds of savants out there. There are tens of thousands of more people who have the skills to conduct decentralized operations to support this administration's war on the institutions that have made war on us. The Democrats flirted with this kind of mobilization of outside assets to do evil. There were groups of psychopaths who made it their point to hunt down innocent Americans for the crime of protesting on January 6th. And it's hilarious that all the efforts have come to nothing thanks to President Trump delivering justice through pardons. This is an information battle as much as anything else. Knowledge is power, and fast knowledge is a superpower. We are trying to do a few things with information. The most important is to find and identify problems. That's one of the things Doge is doing with its algorithms, uncovering the hidden problems within the system. But there are other problems out there that aren't hidden in the code. Tyrannical bureaucrats hassling patriots and defying the president. For example, while we can't identify and solve every single injustice out there, we can make a systemic impact by publicly highlighting and correcting selected problems. In other words, if we find something that's going on that's symbolic, we publicize it, and then we crush the wrongdoer loudly and unequivocally. What does this accomplish? It helps the individual patriot, of course, and that's important, but it also shows other potential resistor bureaucrats what happens if the proverbial eye of Sauron falls upon them. I don't really know if that would be an equivalency I would use in this instance, but okay. They will realize that there is a non-zero chance that at worst they go to jail, or they might lose their pension, or at best, they might find themselves counting igloos in Nome, Alaska. There's no place like Nome. There's no place like Nome. There's no place like Nome. Oh, wait, sorry. That was a reference to a very old episode of Days of Our Lives. Some of you may have gotten it, and it doesn't matter. Oh. So, sorry, I'm catching up with the chat. So, Islam is incompatible with Western civilization. Couldn't agree more. Read two excellent books, The Strong Horse by Lee Smith and The Closed Circle by David Price Jones. Both are great books about Islam. Believe it or not, I've actually read one of those. I still haven't cracked the other one. I have it, and I probably will at some point. I don't read as much like books as I used to because I'm constantly in the news cycle. I need to fix that somehow. But then again, I usually work 20-hour days. So when I'm not working, I'm sleeping, which is rare in and of itself, which is probably why I collapsed this last weekend and slept for most of it. But anyway, so just kind of going through everything here on the way out. So wow. Wow, somebody flew from Alaska all the way to CPAC. You are brave, sir. You are brave. I was supposed to be there yesterday, and unfortunately, a plumbing incident ate up my airfare. But I was also kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really want to fly right now. So hopefully by next year, more things are worked out and working better. And I'm still trying to see if CPAC Dallas is going to be a thing this year. All right, so because we are getting to that point, I took the bottom of the hour already because I took it early because I had to clear my throat. So this is from our friends at Red State, Jim Thompson. And again, this is an opinion piece, and it says it clearly at the top. So, what's in Fort Knox? I think that was a question in a trivia game, and the answer is gold. But is there gold in their hills after all? Is there gold actually in Fort Knox? Elon Musk wants to know. Maybe they can get Geraldo Rivera to host a reveal party. See, I'm telling you, more people think what I think than they're wanting anybody to admit. Maybe Rivera will jinx the whole thing and we'll find out that Fort Knox doesn't have any gold. Maybe they'll find bars of lead painted in gold or tons of fake commemorative coins. Trump and Musk want to inspect Fort Knox's gold. And this is actually a quote, and they're not kidding. We're going to go to Fort Knox, the fabled Fort Knox, to make sure the gold is there, Trump told reporters Wednesday while aboard Air Force One. Musk wrote multiple posts on X before Trump broached auditing the famed base, which houses the U.S. Treasury's bullion reserves. It would be cool to do a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox, Musk wrote in a reply to far-right radio host Alex Jones on February 17th. Later that day, he again posted about the base. Can we not call Alex Jones far right? Maybe just, radio host kook would work, but he's not really far right. And honestly, unless you count the Sandy Hook thing, he's been right a hell of a lot more than he's been wrong. So I don't really know why everybody has such a problem with him. Dude started his cable access. I know that's one of the reasons everybody's looking at him going, how the hell did you get here? But it's all about what you do with what you know. So who is confirming the gold wasn't stolen from Fort Knox? Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. That was according to Elon Musk. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the department already audits the stockpile every year. But do they? Do they really? Because you know what? I've heard of a couple of different Congress critters that have requested access to Fort Knox and they've been told no. You don't have any reason to go there. You don't have clearance to go there. And they're like, dude, I go to military bases all the time. Yeah, but you're not cleared for this one. They're like, I have top secret security clearance. What the hell? Oh. So this is a bit of a history refresher for anybody who might not have known this. So FDR banned private ownership of gold and demanded all citizens turn in their gold for paper. So Americans, by and large, said, cram it, Mr. President. From normal peeps to pirates, gold has an allure. People can be convinced to give up their hard-earned cash if they think they are buying gold as a hedge against catastrophe. Lots of gold sellers are legit. I have gold coins, actual gold coins, as a hedge, and I actually do. What I have never bought are coins clad in gold. I remember years ago seeing a ridiculous ad selling ridiculous coins clad in gold. I was curious to see if those fake gold coins were still being advertised. They are, and lots of online pages warn of scams. Have you ever bought a product after seeing it advertised on TV? Well, maybe a pizza, but not a car. And definitely not fake gold coins, as they aren't actually gold. They are clad in gold. The National Collectors Mint, MCM, sells replica coins and advertises on TV and YouTube. The Mint calls them tribute coins, except they're not. So the voiceover tells the viewer that the coins are replicas of real $50 gold coins, a Buffalo $50 gold piece. As the coin rotates on the screen, the spokes guy tells the audience a short history of the particular real coin. The actual gold coin, was struck with 24 karat gold. Then National Collectors Mint tells the viewer that their own coin is only $9.95 per coin, but you have to act fast, and you can only order 5. Because it wouldn't be fair to the rest of humanity if you cornered the market on their commemorative coins. The feds require that National Collectors Mint put a copy somewhere. Maybe it's hidden in the Buffalo, like Where's Waldo, but I never could see it. Listen closely, Mr. Announcer doesn't lie. He just relies on an age-old magic trick. While he's distracting people with a shiny bauble, he tells the audience that the coins are tribute copies. The coins are cast with 14 milligrams of 0.9999% pure gold. That's 4 nines. He concludes by extolling the gullible to avoid disappointment and future regret. But buy your tribute coins today. So why did I read that part of it? Because I think that's what's been going on with Fort Knox for a while now. And I don't think they want us to know. And I think it's one of the reasons. And I think it was even
think it was Mike Lee, who said, I've tried to go there. They won't let me. Why are you keeping Congress critters from being able to go to Fort Knox? What's going to be the excuse as to why they don't let Donald Trump do a live feed from Fort Knox? Because it's coming. I guarantee you it's coming. Yeah, I know, and that's the problem, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're going to do everything they can to try to stop them from peeking behind the curtain. Because if they find out that there's no gold left, even though our money's not tied to it, it's going to cause a run on the banks. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, 99% of our money now is ones and zeros. So if there's an actual physical run on the bank, they don't have enough printed money to cover everything. We're talking about a Venezuela level event. For those of you who remember when Venezuela collapsed, when we had our own house parody band, and they wrote a song called Lunchtime at the Zoo. Since tomorrow's kind of a fun day, usually on Fridays, I may actually play that in hour 2 or hour 3, just to let you know what we might be looking forward to if we're not really, really careful. That's one of the reasons why, while deflation is a bad thing, I think controlled deflation might be exactly what we need for a while, so that we can actually get the inflation rate, instead of just doing this, to maybe do this for a few years, so we can get back down to around where inflation used to be. Because just like they cooked the books with COVID, and they changed the definition of gain of function research and did all these things, they've also cooked the books on a recession. If they hadn't cooked the books and changed the word recession and changed what it meant, we would have realized we've been in one for a very, very long time. It's going to take some drastic changes to get us out. But in order for us to figure out how we can get out of it, we have to figure out exactly how broken everything is. At the same time, though, as much as we need the information, if we're not careful, it could actually make things worse. So I don't know what's going to happen with Fort Knox, and I pray I'm wrong. Unfortunately, I'm normally not, but I do pray that I'm wrong, and there's at least something left in the vault, unlike Al Capone's vault with Geraldo Rivera. But on that note, folks, we've pretty much reached the end of the program. Don't forget to come back tonight. We do have first up the Culture Shift with Brad and the Amish one. That is kicking off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Then Jen and Rick should be back tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then we'll head over to the SHR Media crew, and we'll do a live simulcast of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. So make sure you belly up and hang out for a last call, because the information's never watered down, and neither are the drinks. So make sure you guys hang out for that. My name's Rick Robinson. This has been my show. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow to close out the week, and then back tomorrow night to do He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Rican. And then Amish and I are going to do a makeup juxtaposition, short form, because we haven't done one in like a month, because he was sick, then I was sick, and then I was sick again. So unfortunately, it's just that time of year. And again, unfortunately, we have reached the point in the program where I do have to tell you this particular show, she's over.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the woods.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
Well, too bad, because it's over.
Well, that's great. This is fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? Game over, man. Game over.
Come back tonight. It's goodbye for now, not forever.
Time for you to go out to the places you will be from. Closing time. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come.
I love you, Oklahoma. What a great crowd. I love you.